Welcome everyone to today's special Bodhi customer webinar. But before we get into it, the answer to the joke, why did no one, did we change that already? Did I already give the joke away? Okay, why did no one want to trick or treat with Dracula? Because he was a pain in the neck. Which is a pretty topical joke right now, not just because of the holiday season or the Halloween season, but right now, well, that's what we're going to talk about here today. So how we're going to try to avoid those Dracula customers that are just a pain in the neck. So I just want to thank everyone for coming to today's special Bodhi customer only webinar. I think most of y'all already know me. I'm Scott Wynn, the founder and CEO of Bodhi. And so today we're going to learn how to avoid the situation. Surprise, it's a 1-star review. So I'm not sure how many of y'all out there have experienced that. What we've seen on Google reviews, there's a lot of solar companies out there that have. So what I want to do today right now is introduce you to our resident expert that's going to lead us through today's workshop. So Stephanie, Stephanie Nadine, many of you already know Stephanie, but for those who don't, she's been helping many of our customers not only use Bodhi, but also disseminating a lot of the tips and tricks that our company's been learning from both in the industry, but also from outside the industry to all of y'all. So one other thing that was kind of a fun fact is, if I can get, oh man, at RE Plus, you guys may have, for those that did visit us at RE Plus, this is Stephanie here. She wore our durian costume at last month's RE Plus. So Stephanie, thanks for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me. I loved being the durian. It was so fun.
So is this going to be your Halloween costume for in a couple of weeks?
I wish I had gotten to bring it home, but unfortunately it's with you in Texas.
Yeah, maybe we just could give you another one because I think I've already reserved that for my Halloween costume party at Emmett's place. So, all right, I'll stop the quick sharing here. So before I hand this over to Stephanie to take over on this workshop, I want to just kind of set the scene a little bit here. So for those, she's definitely going to go into all the surveys, but I want to touch on what that end state we're all striving for. What's that end state that we're all striving for? And so to do this, I have a really good example that I think you guys may appreciate. So I'll share my screen again real quick. And really the question is to y'all, kind of to help set this scene, what car brands out there have the highest customer satisfaction? So if you do have some of your answers there, throw that into the chat. And really, I think this is going to set the stage. So Stephanie, what's your favorite car brand?
Oh, probably Toyota.
Toyota. That's really interesting. So I'm going to lay out, according to Consumer Reports, the top four brands with the highest customer satisfaction are Porsche, Tesla, BMW, and Subaru. So Stephanie, does this surprise you in any way?
I know a lot of loyal Subaru folks here in Utah, so that one does not surprise me.
I actually would have thought that you were like a Subaru Forester person.
I rented one once and it struggled uphill, so no.
But kind of the key thing about this is that I want the audience to kind of understand, as the listeners, like, these cars here, they're not without their issues, So, we know about Tesla and all their, some of the fires that have been reported. Porsches and BMWs, they actually spend a good amount of their time in the mechanic shop. And so what this means is that, despite being far from perfect, all of these companies have been able to still build up a loyal fan base. And then the second really big thing about this is that all four of these, I'll call Subaru the same, these are luxury cars. And so all of them are commanding a premium price. So I think that's kind of where we want to try to get our solar companies. Can we get to that loyal fan base so that customers still love us even though we're not perfect? And with that, start to inch up the pricing so that we are considered premium and the companies, our customers are willing to pay for that as well, which then should translate into more revenues, maybe a higher commission, maybe a bonus or a higher raise for those others. So that's the state that we're shooting for. And so with that, I'm going to really just stop talking and I'm going to hand this over to Stephanie. If you do have any questions, feel free to add them to the Q&A box. We'll also have time at the end for Q&A. And so feel free also to add comments and thoughts and such in the chat window as you guys are listening in. So Stephanie, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Hey, everybody. I'm the customer success manager here at Bodhi, and I know most of you, but some of you have maybe not worked with me yet. So I'm excited to talk with you today. And I'm going to go ahead and share my deck now. And yeah, you all know Bodhi for being a customer experience platform, and inherently we're all about communications. That's the fundamental piece of what creates a good customer experience. And usually we're focusing on how you can better communicate with your customers, but today we're going to talk a little bit more about how we've enabled your customers to speak with you and communicate with you what their satisfaction levels are, so you can do something about it. We're gonna cover the two main survey features in Bodhi today. And the whole goal is really that we're gonna give you some better tools to prevent negative Google reviews and then also empower different team members to generate more referrals from happy customers. I tend to work a lot with ops teams, and so I wanna give you some ideas around how the sales folks can get involved and leverage some of the features in Bodhi as well. So our journey today, first we're going to define the survey score definitions and targets, what the two different types are, so you know what you're looking at when you're in your Bodhi account. We're also going to discuss best practices for a successful solar business and what averages and numbers you should be striving for. And then lastly, we're going to navigate these survey scores in Bodhi like an expert, and we'll do that through a demo. To set the stage of why any of this matters, here are some of the top CX pain points that we're solving with this. And so what we care about is that probably the number one pain point is getting blindsided by a one-star review. You're all working really hard, and every once in a while you get that customer who cannot be satisfied and they hit you up with a one-star review trying to get your attention. Another pain point, you're spending all your time on squeaky wheel customers. So the folks who are complaining, they're draining all your time and resources. And so then those easy projects where everything is smooth sailing aren't getting your attention and aren't getting the 5-star customer service experience that you would like to deliver for them. And then lastly, your team is just too busy to ask those happy customers for reviews and referrals. So Bodhi has features to solve each of these pain points, and that'll kind of be the context of what we're reviewing today. So what is the difference? You've probably heard me talk about CSAT and NPS a lot. And so I wanted to start off by defining that. What are we even talking about? So CSAT stands for Customer Satisfaction Score, and it is honing in on how satisfied someone is with a specific area of your business. So we're asking these customer satisfaction surveys relative to different phases or parts of the experience. The NPS survey is different. It is asking and gauging that brand loyalty that we were talking about with the car brands. It's how likely they are to recommend your brand to other people. So they could be dissatisfied with a part of the experience, but still overall be considered a promoter or loyal to your brand. or your business. We'll get into a little more of what this means with the various numbers on the next slides. So what is a CSAT survey in Bodhi? It's judged 1 through 5, and 1 is very unsatisfied, 5 is very satisfied. And what I really want to call out today is that 3 is neutral. I'm sure everybody wants to get like perfect scores, but sometimes a 3 is not necessarily a bad score depending on what the context of that score is. So we're going to calculate this 1 through 5 as a simple average. So when you see an average score for CSAT, it's the total added up and divided out of 5. And so a 4.25 is actually a best-in-class score. It's hard to be 100% perfect. So if you're seeing scores over 4, pat yourself on the back, you're doing really good. If you're in that high 3 range, there's some room for improvement. It's different than your Google review score. I think people feel social pressure you're going to see reviews on either end. And so this is really kind of different than your Google review score because we're asking about really specific parts of the business in Bodhi so that you can focus your attention on certain phases. How does the CSAT show up in Bodhi? This is a screenshot from the customer portal, and this is the starting point. They start with a neutral, and then they can slide it left or right and let you know what their satisfaction with a specific phase is. So they're responding in app. That's why we send notifications via text, but we still like to tease and get customers to log in because we have a lot of great features in the web app and we want them to go in there. And this is where they're going to be able to answer these questions and they'll be placed with specific notifications. So if you're familiar and you've worked with me, we've customized where this survey gets asked in each phase, usually at the beginning, referring to the previous phase. And then we'll have data for design, permit, install, and inspection. Lastly, because this is submitted through the app by the homeowner, the project manager is notified of these results. But we'll talk about how other team members who aren't the project manager, maybe you have an escalations manager, can hop in and do some digging around these scores as well. Next up, what is an NPS survey? NPS is different and it is also calculated very differently. So it stands for Net Promoter Score, and a 10 and a 9 are considered your promoters. So that's a high enough score out of 10 that you can bet that those are the folks who would refer you to their friends and family. 8 and 7 are considered passives. They're not detractors, they're not dissatisfied with their experience or your business, but they're also not likely to go out and sing your praises. And then we have the detractors. A 0 through a 6 out of 10, we would consider a detractor. Those are folks who might warn someone not to do business with you. And so we definitely want to identify who they are and turn them into promoters. So an NPS score, we'll get to where you can find that in your account, but the math is really different. The scale is from -100, that's the worst possible score you could get, to +100, which is a virtually impossible score to get. And so how that gets calculated is the percent of customers who are promoters minus the percent of customers who are detractors. And so the percent that are passives kind of play into the math there. But if you had 60% promoters and 10% detractors, you'd get a score of 50, which is the start of a best in class. And my one other slide is missing, unfortunately, which shows where this gets sent, but I do want to call that out. This is texted directly. And so customers will receive a text message asking them, how likely are you to recommend this solar brand to your friends and family? And they answer 0 through 10. And so we get those answers quickly at the start of the project. We would expect people's excitement level to be pretty high there. And then we ask them again at the end when they move into the powered up phase. So an example of somebody with a really high net promoter score is Costco. People love Costco. They'll tell all of their friends to go sign up for Costco. It costs money to be a part of Costco. They used to not even let you use a credit card and get credit card points. So they don't always make it easy to be their customer, but they provide an experience that people love. They get great value, and often you're like even driving further away from your house to go shop at a Costco. So a 79 is a really high NPS score. Very few detractors there. On the flip side, we've got PG&E. Not a lot of fans. So -4 promoter score. That's where it's really different than calculating an average. You couldn't get a negative. So you have more detractors than you do promoters, and that's how you get a negative score below a 0. Oh, here we go, just out of order, sorry. So we've got the NPS through Bodhi, where this is the text message that gets sent, and customers respond directly. The other thing that Bodhi does that is really cool is at the end of the project, when they've had a full customer journey with you going solar, if they're a promoter and they give you a 9 or a 10, Bodhi automatically prompts them to leave a Google review. And that's the NPS feature in Bodhi, where we have a link that takes them directly to write a review. They don't have to go search for your profile on Google. It just opens up a box that says write a review. I'd be happy to show anyone that later. And then our safety net feature is that if they give you an 8 or below, so they're a passive or detractor, then we are going to prompt them to give you feedback instead. So we'll ask for a response, and we give your team 2 weeks to respond to that feedback before we send the Google review. But ethically, we still send the Google review, but we give you lots of lead time to get ahead of it. So another good reason to know what kind of scores you're getting and what action to take on those. So that's kind of the context here is you have to know what you're looking at before you can take action on them. And so high level, what you should be doing is immediately respond to CSAT surveys below a 3. You want to make customers feel heard. You're getting ahead of it because those are happening during the project and during the phases. Whereas the NPS is happening at the end of the project. You still have an opportunity to save them and turn them into a promoter, but you're going to have a much better chance if you act on the CSAT surveys throughout the project. You also want to pay attention to trends. I was just working with a customer where we found that the scores in inspection were really low. And so we did some digging into customers who had given bad inspection satisfaction surveys and realized in certain states, the inspection process was really dragging on because of the local process. And so we needed to add in some more time-based touches in the inspection phase to help those customers know that they weren't just left behind and ignored. So this can happen if you expand territories and maybe there's a new gap in your journey that you want to investigate and work on with me. Lastly, we've got your sales team. We can give them a whole table of folks that they can go through and proactively reach out to. The goal is that your journey has plenty of opportunities where we're asking for referrals at high points, but there's other ways to go beyond the automated asks and make a direct request to the right customer. If you are looking at your survey scores, this is the context we want to think in, is if permitting is a low point, that's not where we want to ask for favors. I like to say read the room. It's not the time. And then if your build is actually a really high point, that's a great time to ask for a referral, is right after the install is done, but maybe right before that long inspection wait. And if you're getting great NPS survey responses at powering up, then it's a great time to put in a referral cadence at the end of that phase as well. Cool. So next up, we're going to dive into demo and put everything we just talked about into the context of an actual Bodhi account.
As you're doing that, Stephanie, it's kind of interesting. I thought what I remember finding was that it was a little bit counterintuitive, where sometimes it's the customers who have an issue early on in a process that end up becoming the biggest champions or biggest source of referrals down the road. And so I remember talking to a lot of folks, but that is somewhat counterintuitive, but that highlights just what can happen when there's active engagement within that installation period.
Yeah. You have solar in your house, and I'm assuming the process wasn't perfect, but you're still a big fan.
That's right. And the big fan of the company that put solar in my house. So Lighthouse Solar down here in Austin, Texas. Shout out to you guys.
So here we are diving in. So for this demo, I'm going to pretend that I'm an ops manager for Mackay Solar. If you guys don't know the backstory, Mackay is Scott's oldest son. He used to think it was cool that we used his name. Now, not so much. Now that he's a teenager. But this is a monthly email that everybody who's signed up for the monthly report will get. You have control over that subscription in your Bodhi account. And speaking of Lighthouse Solar, I was recently talking to Stan, the founder, and he said, you know, I got this email and I have this information about the survey scores, but I don't know what to do with it now. So that's what we're going to focus on, is you get this email, now what? You might notice that this is what your average was for the previous month, and you notice that it went up from the month prior. Okay, great. That's good news, but that means that my average is actually lower than that. You know, I'm going to want to dig into that. That's not quite the number that we're looking for. We want to be closer to a 4, maybe a 4.25. Net Promoter Score, now we know what that means. That's not a 30 out of 100. That would feel like a really terrible score. And we know that a 30 is more promoters than detractors. So it's a good start, but it did take a little dip from the month prior. So you can log into your Bodhi account. And for all my dual monitor folks on the webinar, if you want to have your Bodhi account open at the same time, or we'll be sending out the recording, you can follow this flow on your own account, and you might uncover questions and want to work with me through what those mean. But if you've never tried clicking, sometimes there are folks who are like click happy and they've clicked on everything they could possibly click on, and other folks never realized that you could actually click on the numbers at the top. So you can start by clicking on surveys, and your dashboard will switch to the survey table. And these are all of your survey results. And maybe before today, you didn't know what this column even meant when it said NPS survey, yes or no. So now you have context, and we can work around how to filter this table and make sense of it all. So the first thing we're going to do is filter by NPS equal yes. And we'll notice that we've got kind of a mix of scores, a couple promoters, some passive, some detractors. but there's no phase. And now you know why there isn't a phase, because this is texted at the beginning of the end of the project. So we want to sort this data so that we can make sense of it. And first we'll go high to low, and we'll know who our promoters are. Sometimes it's just nice to even get a mental check of who's happy. I think everybody in ops has a pretty good name memory. They're like, oh, that one customer who was real pain. You might see that, oh, they actually submitted a really positive NPS survey. So even though they're a squeaky wheel, they might still be a promoter. So this gives some extra flavor to their opinion of you guys. Next up, we'll filter by low to high. So the lowest score you could get is a 0. And we would definitely want to prioritize everybody who is on the low end of an NPS survey score. Based on timing, everywhere you see orange is a clickable link. You could pop into that homeowner account and see where they are, see where they're at in their project. And if they're giving you a 0 at the start of their project, that is a really good indicator that they are a cancellation risk. You want to get ahead of that ASAP. These survey scores are when the responses come through or emailed to project managers. So you can take that extra step and make it a regular habit to check in Bodhi if your email is pretty full. But knowing that this is important to take action on. If it came at the end of their project, then you would have received that feedback that we prompted them to share with you as well. Next up, we're going to filter by NPS equals no. So maybe this didn't make sense to you before, and now you know these are CSAT scores. These are the 1 through 5s. And so you're not going to see any CSAT surveys that have 8s or 9s. A 5 is going to be the best you're going to see. And so you'll see a mix of responses, and we also want to sort these. So we can start by sorting high to low. That's what these little arrows do throughout all of Bodhi. If you see that on a dashboard, the funnel allows you to filter, and the triangle allows you to sort. And so we can see some trends early on. If you're noticing that the design phase is a high point for all of your customers, and you're not asking for a referral submission in this phase, then you're leaving an opportunity on the table. People are happy, they're excited, they got their final design from you. And so it's a great time to ask if they have friends and family who want to go on this solar journey with them. Next up, we want to dig into the low scores. So we can filter by low to high, and we want to tackle those 1s and 2s first. Best practice is, this is coming to a project manager, but depending on the size of your solar company, I have one outstanding customer. They have a really cool program where if they get a 1 or 2, the owner of the company calls that customer directly. They're small enough that this is feasible for them, but it makes a huge difference. And every time they do it, the customer feels very heard and is so impressed by the fact that they're paying attention. So even if the owner can't get involved, if there's somebody who can handle escalations, this is a way to be really targeted with your time and get in front of the right questions. And to Scott's point, those people might become your biggest promoters because they're so impressed that you care. They're not just submitting a survey score into the void. They're actually getting a response. And so we're turning this into two-way communication. We're making it really easy for them to raise their hand and say, hey, something isn't right with my project. And you're all strapped for time. And so it allows you to dive in and make it right. The other thing you might notice is certain phases are getting the ones. So maybe your inspection and your permitting really need some more no updates is what we call them, and we use those as time-based. So if they haven't moved into the next phase yet, we can send them a notification that could share educational resources, FAQs, and just let them know we haven't forgotten about you. It can take time depending on where their project is located, and they don't always understand that it's other third-party entities that are dragging down the process. One other little anecdote I'll share here is you can also track someone's sentiment through time. So Frank Sinatra was not that excited in the permit phase, but then once he got into the build and got a system, he was really happy. So people can turn it around, and you kind of want to check and see what the trajectory of someone's scores is before you reach out and ask them to give you a referral. So the next thing I would suggest doing is filtering by phase. So now we've looked at some high-level things. We've sorted high to low, low to high, and we want to drill down even further. This is just a little demo. You probably have way more data in your dashboard, and so you want to be able to drill down and evaluate issues within their similar context. So we're going to filter by the permit phase. And now we can see a trend in the permitting phase, and we can take action on these customers. Sometimes it can be easier to navigate through who's slipping through the cracks if you look at it phase by phase. You might have a really large team. I work with a couple installers where every phase of the project is basically a different department. So there's a lead project manager, but there's someone responsible for permitting. So you might have someone on your team that you need to get caught up on Bodhi so they know that they can come through and just filter and see the homeowners who are currently in permitting, because that is who is their responsibility at this point in the project. From here, they can actually just click on a homeowner name and dive into the inbox. So if we go check on Frank Sinatra, because he submitted a 1 and we want to know what's going on, why is Frank upset? And if you have someone in permitting who's not the project manager, or vice versa, maybe the project manager is responsible for dealing with the situation, but the problem arose from a different team member, you all have a cohesive idea of what has been communicated to the homeowner, because all of the Bodhi symbols are the automated notifications. And then the team member initials are what is attached to manual messages that were sent. Maybe there are internal notes that got left, but you can open up this overview on any of the homeowner profiles in the inbox and see where they're at in their project, and you can see their average customer satisfaction score. So even though he submitted a 1, he submitted other scores that were higher, and so he's still below your average, and so this is someone you might need to pick up the phone. While we want to automate as much of your communication as possible, we also really want to save enough time on the automation side so that when it matters, you do have time to go pick up the phone. All right, so that covers the survey scores. I'm going to pop back out into the account dashboard and show you high level a few more things before we wrap up and move into the Q&A. So the referral table, you can get to that from this link at the top. And this is all of the referral names that have been submitted by homeowners. And then you can click into that profile. So your sales team can be empowered to come into Bodhi and click on referrals and get ahead of that. We also have a referral report that you can subscribe to Through your profile, you can assign somebody to receive the referral report on the team page, and you'll see the dates that they were referred. The phone number is not required, but the email is. So yeah, it still takes your team following up on this, but this is just a new project on a platter. Referrals convert at 5 times the rate of other leads. So you definitely don't want to ignore this part of the Bodhi portal. Next up, we can also go to social shares. I think social shares is one that is highly overlooked in Bodhi. So submitting somebody's name through the referrals, maybe that is a little intimidating for someone. They don't want to ask their friends, but they are really excited about their project and they want other folks to go with you. They're a promoter. And so another way to identify that is which homeowners are sharing the referral links through various social media channels. So SMS means they actually texted the link to people. If it's on Facebook, they're just sharing it widely. The glance, you can filter by this. That just means they're systematic glance. So that's a little bit, that's not quite as warm of a lead as sharing the referral link. But if they share their systematic glance, then they're showing off their project and putting your brand name out there with it. But your sales team could definitely contact anyone who is sharing the referral page through social media channels, especially SMS. That means they have someone in mind, but maybe someone didn't take action yet. Last up is the Insights tab. Putting it all together, you have an Insights tab that shows the averages across your different phases. And so big picture, you can see where you need to do some work. A 3.7 for permitting is really good, but a 3.6 for design is maybe lagging. You'd want to target getting closer to a 4 or over a 4 in the design phase. And then down below here, you also have your NPS score, so you can see your overall. And not everyone realizes that you can export this data by month. So I have one customer, they're doing a really cool program where they're using our survey data to export into a spreadsheet, and then they're running some marketing campaigns on it. So they've got the email address of all of their promoters, everyone who's submitting high satisfaction scores, and you can do a lot with that. Having emails, you can do audience lookalikes in marketing. You can also just email those folks directly. If you've got MailChimp, you can add all of the really happy customers into a specific referral program. Maybe you want to offer those people an even higher incentive than your average referral. And if you're really feeling motivated and you don't want to do this month by month, once you're caught up, the month will be really useful. But before then, if you want a full data dump of all of your survey results, just ping me. You can also email support@bodhi.solar and we can get that exported for you for all time. And then after that point, you'll be caught up and you can self-serve through the download link. All right, and last up is just back to our homepage as a quick review. You can filter, you can sort, you can slice, you can dice. Hopefully you learned a ton about how you can navigate your portal like an expert. And we're gonna move on into our Q&A.
Thanks, Stephanie. So if audience, if you guys have any questions for Stephanie, any kind of tips or tricks or that you would like for her to expound upon, feel free to throw that into the Q&A section. You know, so Stephanie, I was kind of thinking about this. where's been the kind of the biggest confusion that folks have had in regards to the CSAT, that do you think you may need to dispel?
Think that early definition of what each scale is, once I tell people that, it's kind of a light bulb. They're like, oh, the 5 isn't bad, because you're seeing this mixed survey results table with the yes and the no, and not knowing what the difference between NPS and CSAT, and so not realizing that those were all really good scores.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I've also heard like, yeah, I think it was great that you brought up the Google review, the reference of everyone's shooting for a 4 or 5. And so when they actually see a 3, the fact that it's there's a very different impression of what a 3 may mean. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, any questions from the audience at all, that y'all would like Stephanie to touch on? If so, please add them to the Q&A box. How, once you could get to know, once you get those, an idea of the promoters and the folks that are highly satisfied, you can take that next step on the marketing side. But how can you how does it get turned around into other parts of the business? How can a company think about the more use of that data?
Yeah, I think so often the ops team, and maybe even just the customer service team, is so focused on putting out fires and preventing 1-star reviews that, back to those pain points, everyone gets stuck on the squeaky wheel customers. And so zooming out and realizing that maybe you have more positive survey results than you thought. We're kind of wired to hone in on the negative. So you might have a couple of these squeaky wheel customers that make you feel like your team is doing a bad job. So one thing is to zoom out and get a gut check on your morale, and you might realize, wow, we're doing a really good job. So we're letting those like 2 squeaky wheels really get us down, instead of realizing, our other customers are all really happy. And so then finding ways in the journey to warm up the language and make it really fun, so that the people you don't have time to handhold because they're not squeaky wheels are having a really great experience. What we love to see is a Google review that's like, I found out updates through this really cool app they have. They don't even call it the Bodhi app. They think it's your app. And so you get to take credit for this customer facing portal. You get to take credit for all of those proactive notifications.
One thing I heard, there was one installer that I know who, whenever one of their customer submits a 5-star Google review, the project manager gets $100 bonus.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So for those project managers out there, customer support reps, ask your ops manager or his company owner, CEO, that's a program that they're willing to support. All right, we've only got a few minutes left. Stephanie, do you have any last pieces of advice or any parting words for the audience?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are doing kind of a thankless job. Running the ops side of solar is really challenging. So we at Bodhi really appreciate all the hard work you're doing. Every day we come to work and think about how we can make your job easier. For the sales reps, you're the top of the funnel and you're helping rooftops, convert to solar all across America. And yeah, we just want to make it easier, and we want to give you more tools to find eager homeowners who want to help the solar revolution. And so if you ever have any questions, just ping us. We're an open book over here, and we're always looking to find new ways. I want to put in a plug for our product team as well. I ping customers to have product feedback sessions. But if this webinar really got your gears turning and you have ideas for ways we could make getting reviews and referrals in Bodhi even better, I would love to have a product feedback session. We really want to prioritize the feedback of our customers, because that feedback loop also is relevant to us. We want to know how we're doing, and we want to put your ideas into the platform.
Yeah, give us a rate us with your customer satisfaction. We're doing a scale of 0 to 5 here right now, or 1 to 5. Give
Yeah, what's your satisfaction with the survey or with the webinar? You want to know.
All right, cool. Well, we don't want to hear that. So, but no, we do want to hear that. But like Stephanie said, if you do have ideas of how to make Bodhi better, you know, we are open ears. You can also set up a product feedback session with our UX researcher, Meredith. So I guess with that, we'll end the webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you. This has been a really awesome conversation. Want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us today. And we do these customer success webinars about once a quarter. So if there's a particular topic or gnarly challenge that you'd like us to try to dive into, let us know, and we'll set up a customer success webinar specifically on that topic itself. So like I said, thank you again, and wishing you guys all an inspiring rest of the year. Thanks.